Alright, so the theme for this deck is to run gamble cards. But I kind of wanted to run gambling cards that have good effects or don't have like super terrible negative effects. I mean, I still ran a couple of those anyway. Like, Gambler of Legends. You can't have a gambling deck without Gambler of Legends. And Dice Jar, I even threw in Lucky Punch just to see if I'd be able to get off its effect. If you get it off, you get to draw three cards, which I thought would be great. And I was like, okay, now let me just throw in a whole bunch of other gambling cards that are technically gambling cards, but they have really good effects, like Fairy Box, Ordeal of the Traveler. Who else has a really good effect that doesn't really have that bad of a downside? I mean, I guess Dark Sanctuary doesn't really have a bad downside to it. You just flip a coin, and if you call it wrong, no big deal. A couple of the cards you do have to call the coin correctly, like Time Wizard. Sasuke Samurai, he doesn't really care if you call it incorrectly or not. Gambler of Legends totally does. So does Jaragumo. Oh, I should probably tell you guys, Jaragumo, he's not a good card. He's not a good gambling card either. He basically just has a downside to his effect. The good thing about him is that he has 2200 attack for a level 4 monster, which is pretty good, but that's not something all that great in today's metagame. So anyways, I attacked with him, I think about 5 times total in all the duels I did. Around 5 times. Not all in the same duel, because having him live for 5 turns in a single duel, that's kind of amazing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really fast. Anyways, out of all the times I attacked with him, I called it correctly every single time. That's crazy. I had a 100% success chance on calling it, because I call tails. And every time I have to toss a coin for anything, I call tails. I used to be a heads person, because heads is like the default option, especially in Dev Pro. They're like, would you like to call heads or tails? And it was, heads is the first option. I used to just pick heads because, like, well, it's 50-50 anyway, so what does it matter? And I kept getting it wrong, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to choose tails from now on. So I started choosing tails, and I get it, like, well, I'm pretty sure it's still 50-50, but I feel like I get it correct more often than not now, whenever I call tails on a thing, which kind of sucks, because a lot of these cards don't allow you to call, and you basically just have to, they already have it assigned, like Cup of Ace. Heads draw 2 cards, tails your opponent draws 2. I always call tails. If I could, I would call tails on this, but I can't, so Cup of Ace doesn't work well for me because I get tails more often than heads. I swear I'm not superstitious, it's just this is what happens for me. I wasn't superstitious until I started calling tails and coin flips, and now I totally am like, I'm a tails person. I have to call tails, otherwise I won't get it. And I got the call correct every single time on Jaragumo, and I got it. I actually use Sasuke Samurai's effect quite a bit. You basically toss a coin, and if you call it correctly, the monster you're battling is destroyed instantly, which is not half bad. And I called it correctly like 90% of the time, with just calling tails all the time. That was pretty great. Same thing with Fairy Box. This one allows you to call heads or tails. And I literally won a duel because my opponent pendulum summoned a bunch of cards out, and he attacked my Jaragumo. And I called tails, and I got it right 2 times in a row, and that was like 44,000 damage. No, 4,400 damage, which was enough to kill him. I was like, oh, I feel sorry for you, but my tails game is just too strong.